Welcome to the Everything Is Earned podcast. I'm your host, Mike, and unfortunately, Tim's not able to do this podcast with me today, but don't worry, we have a lot to talk about. Actually, the biggest thing we have to talk about is the NFL schedule that was just released. Interesting, the way the Browns schedule turned out this year. Last year we get four primetime games. It's a loaded schedule. We look at the back half and go, man, the Browns could really put something together here, make a playoff push, and get themselves into the wild card or the division, depending on how things go. And as obviously we know, things didn't turn out the way we'd like them to. Particularly with those primetime games. You don't start out the way last year you get the Jets as a nice bounce back game after you get your butt kicked by the Titans. Wasn't a perfect game, but it was a nice little bounce back. You go in and you play the Niners, and you get your butt absolutely handed to you by the Niners. And further case in point, the Niners actually had a really great season, ended up losing in the Super Bowl and blowing a 10-point lead. But the Niners pretty much handled their business when they played the Browns on Monday Night Football. We also hosted the Rams last year, a very winnable game that the Browns botched. And then we had the Steelers game, which we had won on Sunday Night Football, but that was the infamous Myles Garrett game. So the league looks at the Browns, they go, man, still a very well put together team, better coaching, more talent. It's a team that can definitely produce well, but we're not going to give them the same type of hype that we gave them last year, and they can't really give them this kind of primetime schedule with the way we performed last year. So obviously, with the Myles Garrett thing, with the way that things turned out last season, they had to slow the hype train down just a little bit, and they gave us 2 primetime games this year. Actually, really nice placement with the primetime games. If you look at it, the week 2, you get the you get Thursday Night Football against the Bengals. Great time for a primetime game. You get a chance to come back and get a win at home. Whether or not you stay in that Baltimore game week 1, it's really kind of a toss-up. Week 1 football is kind of a mystery. Some teams come out and surprise other teams, and you really don't get a good sense of what a team's going to look like until probably week 3, week 4 as the team starts to get their identity together. Baltimore will be having J.K. Dobbins from Ohio State that they'll be adding into the system. So you could catch the Ravens on a, we have all these toys, what are we going to do with them type of situation. You also have to remember that last year the Browns did get that beat down on the Ravens, and then the Ravens pulled off 14 games in a row. So the Browns, as a division game, I always feel they have a little bit better chance against the teams like the Ravens and the Steelers, just because you can heighten the sense of competition as a division rival. So the Ravens don't scare me as much as a team like the Chiefs would. I really, think Lamar Jackson had a heck of a season last year, and obviously he's shown he can perform at a very high level, and he was the MVP. So the Ravens are still a very dangerous team, and odds makers are actually saying they have the best chance at winning the Super Bowl in early simulations here. But I would say that Baltimore week 1 is kind of a toss-up game, but Baltimore does have an 8.5 point favorite towards them. So they're 8.5 point favorites. At home, opening up. Definitely wanting to get their season started off on the right foot. So I like that week 2 we played the Bengals. It's a really great spot for it. And then the other primetime game they have is December 14th against the Ravens on Monday night. That's a home game as well there. I think that's great because that allows you to get a chance to see what the Browns look like mid-season form. It's really a great game too because you're coming off of the Jaguars and Titans, so you could have a little bit of momentum rolling there for you. But late in the season, the last 4 games, they're really a good spot to kind of show what you're made of on primetime there. So that'd be a good chance to say, hey, we're for real. Hey, we're supposed to be here, and hopefully you have identity set together by then. It'd be really nice if you could do that. The Browns schedule as a whole is actually pretty solid. I like what they have out there for us. It's not It's not unwinnable. There's not any real gauntlet stretches where you have to worry about going on a big losing streak. It's a pretty balanced schedule. I think the toughest part is actually to kind of close the season. You close the season at home versus the Ravens, and then you go away back-to-back games against the Giants and then the Jets, and then you close the season against the Steelers. So depending on how the Steelers do, you could be in a tough situation week 17, try to punch in your ticket into the playoffs, or you could be resting guys. It all depends on where you're at and where the Steelers are at, but the last 4 games, could be the toughest part about the season. And that's really difficult for me to kind of think about is it could all come down to 4 games. I'd like to say, the Jets, we got that. The Giants, we got that. But you remember those are 2 away games after a home game versus the Ravens. So if you beat the Ravens, you set yourself up to go on a 4-game winning streak. However, if you lose the Ravens, you really have to get some get back against the Giants, and then you have to show up against the Jets. But however, we do have the Odell Beckham Jr. Storyline going on there, so that could be something that you could get a big time performance out of Odell if that was the case. So looking at the schedule, I like again the balance of it. I like where the primetime games are placed. The toughest stretch, I do believe, is the last 4 games. And again, that's at home versus the Ravens on Monday night, at the Giants, at the Jets, and then Steelers at home to close the season on January 3rd. They currently have that Jets game as either the 27th or 28th. It's a TBD, so they don't have a set time for it. It's still kind of up in the air. And I'm sure they're going to figure it out, but it's still kind of in flux right now. Another big change from last year is the Browns have 12 1 p.m. games. That's a big improvement. Obviously, it's going to make everyone's schedules a little bit easier this year in Cleveland. I know last year we had all of the games in 4:25, Monday night, the Sunday night, the Thursday night. We were kind of bouncing around a little bit, and I know that is nice to get showcased on national television, but when you get your butt kicked, it's not so nice. So fortunately, we got 12 1 p.m. games. It'll make things a little bit easier. We'll be in a little better spot there. And then the final thing here is, we only play 4 playoff teams from 2019. So like I said, the schedule's pretty balanced. You're not playing this big gauntlet of tough opponents. You only have 4 teams that were playoff teams last year. You got the Ravens, you've got the Texans, you've got the Titans, and I'm missing one here. Cowboys? Were the Cowboys a playoff team last year? I want to say no. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But it was only 4 teams that made the playoffs last year. So that's not too bad. I think strength of schedule wise, we're doing okay here. So now that we have the schedule, we have the dates, the times, everything's set. As long as everything goes off accordingly, we could be looking at pretty solid season here. I want to go game by game today. I think playing the schedule game is kind of a tough thing to do this far away from the season, especially with everything going on. They look like it's going to still be on this timeline, and NBA teams actually return to practice facilities this week. The Cavs in particular, and I believe I want to say the Nets did as well. So there are two teams that did return to practice this week. So things are getting a little bit back to normal. Recently, Ken Rosenthal of the Athletic actually said that the Indians have told their players to prepare for a July 1st start to the season. So that's exciting as well. So the Indians could be coming back here soon. And, we're looking at the NBA season either resuming here, and finishing up the season, which will be great. And then hopefully baseball will start up. So we have some things coming on the horizon, which are definitely exciting. I'm definitely happy to see that we're getting things kind of back to normal here. I'm excited for sports. I know we might be in a place where we're not going to be able to have full capacity in the stands, or it might be just a partial capacity, or might be no fans at all. So tough to think about those being the possibilities, but we have a NFL schedule out. We have some preliminary things going on here with the other major sports. So it's good to see that things are starting to get back to a little bit normal here. The one thing I did want to mention here as well, as kind of bonkers, is Peter King, actually, national writer, a radio guy, said that he believes that one of the things they might do is not serve alcohol at the stadium, which would be crazy, but it's a weird reality that they can maybe not serve alcohol. I think that's would definitely change people's plans as to how they watch the game, how they plan to enjoy a game. I know not having alcohol, it would be kind of crazy because it is such a major part in sports and is a big part of the concession sales and what people do while going to a sports game. So interesting to see how that pans out and if that'll actually come to fruition or if it'll be something that that gets tossed around quite a bit here. So ultimately, good day in sports though. You got the schedule coming out and we're excited about that and the possibility of the Indians returning in July and and the Cavs back at the practice facility is a pretty encouraging stuff here. So I'd love to hear what everyone's season predictions are, what they think will happen here with the Browns' upcoming season. Please shoot us a comment or leave it in the leave it somewhere. I don't know, leave it on the iTunes. Just let us know what you thought about the schedule and what your thoughts are. And then, leave us a review on the podcast. I'd love to see what you guys think, what suggestions you might have. If you have a suggestion, please, shoot us a DM. Love to hear about it. And as always here, we'd like to thank you for listening. And remember that in Cleveland, everything is earned.